up, everybody? And that's right, it is that time finally. The summer of soccer is coming to its crescendo. We are here in the final game of the Gold Cup. We still have one more tournament to cover still, but that's not going to be what this show is about. This show is all about the Gold Cup final, USA, Mexico. This is the 8th time they've matched up in the Gold Cup finals. Will it be another one for the record books? We'll have to wait and see. But first, let me welcome in my crew for this one, bringing back my friend, as always, Hector Flores from Insert Name FC. Hector, how you doing, man?
Great, man. Happy to be here. It's an awesome final, and I can't wait to cover it.
Absolutely. And joining us, as always, is Nick Gable, one of the contributors for Belly Up Sports, blog writer, and you can find all his stuff over on bellyupsports.com. Nick, how you doing, man?
Doing good. Ready to cover it. Excited for tomorrow.
Awesome. Yeah, this is going to be a fun one. This is an intense one, guys. It's not just any final, right? It is USA. It is Mexico. Two teams who have been seemingly on different paths leading into this. This is one that you just look at as potentially an opportunity for one team to really put their foot forward and establish themselves going into the World Cup next year. And the other team, well, kind of the same thing. Mexico, you could honestly say the same about them as well as the U.S. Take your pick on which one I'm talking about. They both have similar answers here. They need to figure it out, and this is just one more step before the World Cup that they can get ready for. So, guys, just to recap, if nobody paid attention, we've been doing this since the group stage. The USA winning their group stage match, Mexico also winning their group stage, not as convincingly, some could say, as the U.S. men's national team. In the quarterfinals, Mexico did go to penalty kicks, getting out of that, escaping that, winning the next round in the semifinals with no problem. On the other hand, the USA PKs in the first round of the quarterfinals, semifinals, getting through on a Diego Luna brace, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And here they are in the finals. No Canada. Couple of upsets on the way here. Guys, has this been one of the more exciting knockout rounds in Gold Cup recent history in your guys' eyes? Hector, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, when it comes to the Gold Cup, it all points back to USA versus Mexico. But I think the story of this competition is Guatemala. Like I said, this team has gotten better and better each time the Gold Cup. This team used to not be even in the conversation as far as Gold Cups go, not that long ago. And they have made a presence not only by their kits, but just as their performances on the field. Obviously, they've done really good with their player scouting. Obviously, getting a guy like Rubio, who was a U.S. men's national team, youth through their youth system, and of course Aaron Herrera, another player that also went through the U.S. youth system, but found their place in Guatemala. And I think a team that I will say, hopefully, if things keep going the way they're going, I think they have a great coach. By the way, I think that this could be a team that you might be able to see a shift in amongst the Central American teams.
Yeah, Nick, by the way, Rubio Rubin, who Hector's mentioning, a guy that maybe I felt should have gotten some more play with the U.S., but I understand why. But Nick, what about you? Is Guatemala the story for you? And let me just correct something, as I said it wrong earlier. Mexico did not go to PKs in the quarterfinals. They have not been in PKs yet in this knockout round. Every other team had. But Nick, what are your thoughts on this tournament so far? Is Guatemala your kind of swan song here, or what's up?
Yeah, definitely. I think not only Guatemala, but their fans kind of showing up and showing out everywhere they've been is pretty impressive. I think this is one of the more memorable Gold Cups because I feel like every game has felt close, especially in the knockouts. Mm-hmm. And there's been surprises, not only Guatemala, but Panama just going, straight through the group stage only to lose in their first knockout round.
Yeah.
And then it's also kind of been the Gold Cup of even though we got to the final of USA Mexico, it wasn't like either of those teams dominated their way through every single game. It's been kind of, other than the USA Trinidad Tobago game, there hasn't been a dominant performance.
Yeah, that's very fair. It's been very interesting to how we got here. And let's talk about it, right? Let's talk about Mexico first. Mexico, as I said, getting through the group stage, 2 wins, a draw, and goal difference of only +5 when you consider that group second in that group in goal difference. Didn't really convincingly win their group. Costa Rica, obviously, number 2 in that group, and then Dominican Republic and Suriname are the other 2 teams in that group. And you look at Mexico, it hasn't really been, as Nick said, it hasn't really been emphatic until, I'd say, They got to Saudi Arabia, the 2-0 win in Saudi Arabia, the 1-0 win over Honduras, who, by the way, you can kind of say had their own swan song here. But I think you look at Mexico, and we've been questioning a lot about them getting to this point. But what are you guys' take so far in Mexico? Is this team ready for next year for the World Cup? Are they ready to lift a trophy in the Gold Cup tomorrow? How has it been a run for them? Nick, go ahead and start this one out.
I was expecting a little bit more from Mexico. I would argue this is like almost like A team, or if at worst like B+ team for them. And I've just expected them to be a little bit more dominant, especially after 2 summers ago going out in the group in the World Cup. Like I expected a little bit more from them. With that said, they're in the final, so maybe my expectations were just a tad bit too high.
Yeah, that's fair. It's as you look at this Mexico expectations is always a word for Mexican national team, right? Hector, obviously we've talked about Mexican Americans, Mexican players, and the expectations that come with the brand of Mexico, El Tri, if you will. How has this Mexico team performed to you so far versus past Mexico teams?
I would say overwhelming. Overwhelming, but it's still getting the job done, and that's kind of what I expect from Mexico at the end of the day. As why they won so many Gold Cups is because of them knowing their assignment per se, right? They know what they need to do. They need to go into this Gold Cup and win matches, and they have. They have a good amount of clean sheets during this time. I think they've gotten a lot of tests. I think their group was a really good group to be in. Costa Rica was definitely a big challenge for them. But also, I mean, give props to Suriname and Dominican Republic. I think we saw 2 really good performances for them. And it was never a comfortable win for Mexico, but still wins nonetheless. And then going into Saudi Arabia, same thing. A win nonetheless, but still very, very tight. Look, as of recently, there's been a lot of criticism with this Mexican national team. It's not – I'm not sugarcoating it. This is conversations that I've had with many people that this team is just – not from what it was from back then. And so there's still certain players on this quote unquote A team that a lot of people really wish wasn't on this team right now. And I get it. So I think there's a lot of frustration because of how critical the Mexican fan base is and how high their standard is when it comes to their national team. And despite all that, they've still performed. And like I said, this team, one thing that this team does is they will compete in CONCACAF, and they don't take this competition lightly. They will be full serious throughout the competition, and that's why they're in the final.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. Obviously, with this, you look at kind of players that can make a difference, and one guy who maybe most Mexican fans and most fans would say hasn't been stepping up for Mexico has been Raul Jimenez. The guy, he should have been shouldering the weight here from the striking position, from the striker position, and it doesn't seem 2 goals in 5 games doesn't seem like the production you'd expect from a guy that is leading El Tri. And you look at this as kind of a question of, is he the guy? Is he really this guy for the team? Or if not, who is going to be able to step up and be that guy? Hector, what are your thoughts about Raul Jimenez so far?
No, I think he is the guy. I think not that long ago, he was the guy that took charge for Mexico when they went to the Nations League final. I said that this was an amazing redemption arc for him, especially after years of not being with the national team due to just a very unfortunate injury that he had while in the Premier League. One, by the way, still in the Premier League. This was a guy that I was very high on since he left Club America and when he went to Europe and had his journey as a guy competing amongst the ranks of Europe, has played in different clubs, but still I think found his home in the Premier League of all places. And I think that he is a very good player. He still has a lot of quality left. I do believe that he is their 9 from here on out. I know that there was a lot of conversations. We saw them switching with guys like Henry Martin. We saw a lot of people hoping that Santi Jimenez would eventually take the helm at some point. I think that there's still some work to be done as far as his national team side performances goes. But as a player as a whole, I think he should be the predecessor to, Raul Jimenez. But I think the way Raul Jimenez, he's having his renaissance, and I think he's looking fantastic. And I honestly do believe that, if not, obviously not now, but I do see him eventually jumping over Chicharito in the all-time goal-scoring record for Mexico.
Wow, that's a big call out there because you talk about the Mexican national team. Obviously, goal scorers are not necessarily rare, but when they're there, they stay for a long time. Even though Chicharito could not find a home, a long-term home in Europe, obviously always scoring goals for Mexico, the quintessential right place, right time type of guy when it came to scoring goals anywhere. And for the Mexican national team, no more important than you saw leading into the World Cups in 2020 and even in 2016. So, Nick, I got to ask you the same question. Raul Jimenez, is he that guy? Is he going to be the one that steps up? Is he not? If not him, who's going to be the one that steps up?
I would say he's the guy by default because he has kind of the club success playing in the Premier League week in, week out. And also he's had enough success with the national team. Unlike Santi Jimenez, who is kind of left a little bit to be desired with his performances with the national team. So I still think Jimenez can get a job done. I think he's kind of like a one-chance striker where it's like he only really needs one like looping ball into the box, and he can get his head onto it, he can get his feet onto it. And yeah, I think he is the guy. But I do think there is going to be pressure depending on how good or bad Santi Jimenez's next season is with Milan.
Yeah, that's fair. That's actually a very fair assessment because obviously when you make a move overseas, it can change a player for better or for worse. Especially we've seen a lot of Mexican national team players become better, Andres Guardado, and become worse, Gio Dos Santos. Could never find that real foothold when he obviously made the big move to Barcelona. And then you see him move over the other side of the country or other side of the ocean, and all of a sudden he's good again. And so, you do wonder about that with every Mexican national team player when they go overseas, same like you do with Americans. On the flip side of this game, let's not talk all about Mexico here. USA, right? The U.S. men's national team, this is a team that, I won't say walked through their group, but as Nick mentioned in early on here, probably has the most emphatic win of anybody so far in this tournament over Trinidad and Tobago, but then won unscathed, shockingly to most, in their group stage. One of the only teams, actually the only team to go undefeated in their group stage without a draw. And it's been an interesting run for the U.S. You've seen the best of the best from the U.S. so far with this squad, with Diego Luna. That brace in the semifinals was an absolute just buoy when it was needed for this team, avoiding a potential pitfall against the swan song Guatemala team. And then you've seen kind of the bad at times where you haven't had a real striker step up. You've had a good striker at times, but then you've had a lot missing. Malik Tillman goes missing. Outside of Chris Richards, it's been a kind of crapshoot for who's going to be the guy that steps up each and every game. But when Malik Tillman has, when Tim Ream has, when Diego Luna has, this team shows can be a very strong power. And you look at this going forward as like, have you been sold on what Pochettino is trying to do with this team? Are you sold on this working long term, or do you think something has to change? And I know I'm kind of rehashing everything we talked about in the last episode of this, but it's still worth mentioning because right now, is anybody really sold on this U.S. national team without seeing how the other players integrate, the Christian Pulisic, the Weston McKennies, or are you sold on this as is? Nick, I'm going to go right back to you.
I think what Pochettino was trying to establish during this tournament was a kind of culture, which is the weird thing to try to establish when you're like, you pretty much going to have the job for another year. Like after the World Cup, I think he's gone. But what he was trying to do was establish like a kind of a culture that kind of harkens back to like 2014 USA team, that kind of fight, that grit. And if you look at it from a 10,000 foot view, you're like, oh, well, you went to penalties with Costa Rica and you only beat Guatemala, who has had an impressive tournament, but is still like in the hundreds in their FIFA ranking. You only beat them 2-1. But if you kind of dive deeper, it's like, all right, you were down to Costa Rica after a penalty miss 1-0, came back and won. You even gave up a goal, ball hit the post, and you were heading into penalties against Keylor Navas, who is one of the best penalty savers as a keeper ever, maybe. So I think like Pochettino, I think accomplished the job of trying to build a culture of like the USA, like representing your country and going hard for it. Whereas like it seems like in these games with these players, I've seen more fight than I have with maybe the other players, I should say, who have been like kind of our A team, where it seems like every time Berhalter goes into a tackle, he's either stepping over the guy or screaming at him if he doesn't get up in time. So I would say yes. I think the USA has done well and established a good culture so far.
Hector, what are your thoughts? And also, I want to throw this out there. Matt Freese, are you also sold on our goalkeeping situation for the U.S. amongst everything else?
If anything, I think that there's still more questions about our goalkeeper because I don't think that we necessarily have a set goalkeeper. I think Matt Freese has definitely put in a good put a good shout for himself. If anything, he could definitely be a PK specialist if need be. But I think at the end of the day, depending on how, maybe he'll want to poke fun of Matt Turner with the whole Leon going to League Two potential. Obviously, they're still trying to appeal it. But honestly, him in League Two might be the best thing to happen to him, to be fair, because he needs to be playing. And I think that till someone can step up a little bit more, it's still Matt Turner's job, in my opinion. I think Pochettino wanted him to make sure he handled his club situation, which is why he's not starting. And secondly, we got to see what else we got, And I think with Matt Freese, I think he's had some moments. I think one thing, none of these keepers are perfect.
Yeah.
Maybe someone shaves their head. Maybe we finally find out one of them is perfect. But as of right now, the keeper situation, I think, is still very much up for debate. But as far as this team goes, these are guys that just have something to prove. At the end of the day, these guys are showing that, hey, we want to play with heart. We want to play CONCACAF style football, which, I mean, they really have been very physical. They're not afraid of a yellow card the way they've been playing in this tournament. Malik Tillman, I think for me, he just showcased that why he should be the starting 10 for the U.S. men's national team once you have the actual team together. I think he guaranteed himself a spot in the midfield, which is great because I think that has been a missing piece. And for Pochettino, he needs a 10. So I think as far as that midfield goes, it could be very much Malik. By the way, also on his way to Bayer Leverkusen. But Malik Tillman, a midfield that we could be talking about, Malik Tillman, Weston McKennie, and maybe Tyler Adams or Johnny Cardozo whenever he finally wants to play for the shirt. And I think that says a lot of things. I think there's a lot of players that have put in a good argument for themselves. Now, for anybody calling this a C team or a B team, I think that there's still a good mixture of A team guys like Chris Richards. I do generally believe that he would be on the starting lineup for the U.S. men's national team. Same thing you can say for Malik Tillman, and so I don't think that necessarily this is like a complete C team or B team for the U.S. men's national team. But obviously, there's a lot of guys that want to prove themselves, and I think that's what we saw from their matches. Is a team that, one, has very little experience together, but two, have so much to prove to make a statement for themselves come 2026.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it's not necessarily a B or C team. There are some mix of A team because that'll lead us right into the next thing I want to talk about, which is Diego Luna. Hector, he's your dog. He's the dog, right? He is that guy right now for the U.S. And if you need every tackle be put in, you need the ball back, you need something creative, you need some flash, you need some flair, but you need some dirty play. Not dirty, but you need somebody to get down and dirty in the other team. And he's that guy right now. He's that pit bull, the guy you want to see going. Has this been that tournament for Diego Luna, a guy who just broke his nose, had tissue stuffed up his nose, pictures everywhere a couple months ago, and now here he is wearing the number 10, scoring clutch goals, getting a brace in the semifinals to get the team to the finals. Is this his run at being on the World Cup roster, and not just on the World Cup roster, but also starting going forward? Could he make it that far, or do you think this is just a nod to him being on the roster? Hector, I'm going to go right back to you with this.
It's a nod. I think. Look, first of all, you need Tim Weah, you need Christian Pulisic. And like I said, I believe Malik Tillman is definitely the number 10 for the U.S. men's national team going forward. But I think if you want somebody to really change the tone of the game, come second half, I think that's your tone setter. Can he somehow prove himself to be better than Christian Pulisic? I mean, with his age and his potential, that's still up for discussion. But I kind of want to take a little bit of time right now just to talk about how great this kid is, because this isn't, to me, I'm not shocked by this. Yeah. I knew Diego Luna was very much capable of this. It's just people kept overlooking at him. This guy was a graduate of the Barcelona Residency Academy in Arizona. A lot of MLS teams passed on him the first time around because they thought he was fat and they didn't think that he was good enough to play. Plus, they felt that he was undersized, so they felt he wasn't good. By the way, U.S. soccer, stop looking at fast, tall kids as being the prime quote-unquote player for your selection process. Start looking guys for technical ability. That also it comes into value. You can have both, but you also need to value guys with technical ability, and that's one of the falters of the U.S. youth system, is that we potentially almost missed out on a kid like Diego Luna. And I think he took a big risk. He's originally from California, gets a contract by El Paso Locomotive from the USL. And I'm sure he didn't even know what El Paso was when he moved there, but he took his risk, went to El Paso. It paid off tremendously because then it led to a contract with Real Salt Lake. Probably also didn't know much about Utah, but there he is, showcasing to everyone what he's been capable of. Became a very important piece to that Real Salt Lake team. Was with the U.S. men's national team that helped qualify for the Olympics. Was not selected for that Olympic team for some weird reason. I still don't know why to this day, but still, Diego Luna has just always had a chip on his shoulder. He's always had something to prove. He's always wanted to play for the U.S. men's national team. I think at this point we've all heard all his interviews. That's the only national team he wanted to play for. He never cared about playing for the Mexican national team. His home was the U.S. and that's what he wanted to represent. And I think we need to stop taking that away from him. So many people keep trying to say that, try to use his family's nationality as that he should not be here with the U.S. men's national team. No, he belongs, and he's showcasing it every single match. And as someone that is deeply a fan of him, and I've told to everybody that the Houston Dynamo completely whiffed on not signing this kid when they had the chance. He's making everybody pay, and they're making them pay tremendously.
Yeah. Nick, what are your thoughts on Diego Luna? Because I have more to add to what Hector said, but I want to get your thoughts first, Nick.
So I'm going to tell a quick little story about the Trinidad and Tobago game that I went to. I kind of tried to explain to my dad, who likes soccer but isn't following it week in, week out, about Diego Luna, and my dad came away from the game being like, I like that guy. The second I laid eyes on him, he was incredible. The way he looks, he's just short, stocky, and runs hard and plays hard. He fights for everything. And I would take the whole does he make the roster thing? I would take it a step further, that if I was marketing U.S. soccer for next summer, I would put him on the billboards. I would try to market him because he has the personality that I think people are drawn to, where he's going on Pat McAfee's show. He talks about how much he really loves playing for the U.S. And when he gets close to the buck, he's a very tricky player. Kind of a highlight. People might not understand this reference, but there used to be a term called the Vine player, where in 6-second clips, this person was great. Now I guess he's a TikTok player, but he still produces. I think he's making a case for a starting spot. I definitely think he's on the roster, or as they say, on the plane. But I guess you're not going on a plane for the U.S. because it's already in your country. But yeah, I've loved everything I've seen from him, and he's got
a room in the hotel.
He's got room. He's got a room.
He's in the block, that's for sure.
Exactly. I think his story is incredible. I would say, side note about his future, I would hope he kind of stays in the MLS just to get consistent game time and not maybe rush a move to a European team where he isn't going to he might not start week in, week out. So I hope he kind of stays in the MLS through the next summer, and then makes the move next summer post World Cup. But yeah, I love everything about Diego Luna. I think he's a potential star for the U.S. Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah. By the way, we brought up Raul Jimenez, and just for a comparison's sake, Raul Jimenez, 5 games, 2 goals, no assists, and no yellow cards. Diego Luna, 5 matches, 3 goals, 2 assists, 2 yellow cards. So everything I just talked about Assists, goals, everything we've all said. By the way, yellow cards because he's not afraid to get in there and get dirty with it. And one thing that I've always loved about Diego Luna and his story, I've known about it for a while, is he's outspoken about how much the game has made him alone, made him feel like a loner in times. After you mentioned it, being in with Locomotive and then moving to Real Salt Lake, you go to Utah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird place. It's based in Sandy, Utah. It's not even Salt Lake City. It's outside. He gets a job at Dutch Brothers Coffee to work on his social skills. Doesn't go out partying like you would expect most 18, 19-year-old kids to do with a lot of money that they didn't have before. He decides he gets a job at Dutch Brothers Coffee in the offseason, works on his everything to do with his personality, works on the way he deals with fans, works on the way he deals with friends. On top of that, he's been outspoken about his mental health, the therapy that he started before he went on his run with Real Salt Lake, and he talks about it. It's whether or not it's a direct contributor, it is a part of his story. And you see, and Hector, I want to go to your point on this. He's not what we've seen from a potential star for the U.S. men's national team before, and I love it. He has the tattoos. He's not just some white guy from the suburbs that got raised by U.S. soccer because his parents had money. He's a guy that went the hard way to get there and is continuing to fight time and time again to be the guy. And you see that in his play, as Nick, you mentioned, around the box. I question the ability to stop him for a lot of players. He has the Mexican flair to him, that style around the box that we have been dying for from a U.S. national team player. We want that. It's not Landon Donovan's one step over, kick it long, and run past somebody. It is very much there's skill, there is talent, there is technical ability that you see with Diego Luna that you don't see with a lot of American national team players. And I swear, can every country, not just U.S., but specifically every country, stop looking at tall people. Did Messi did Antoine Griezmann not teach anybody anything? These guys are small. They are talented. They're quick. They're hard to stop when you put a ball that is a size 5 at their feet. Yeah, it may take up half of their leg, but you know what? You got to get it off of them sometime, and you can't just tackle them every time. So I love his story. I love everything about what he's done to get here. Shout out Real Salt Lake's front office for seeing the talent and bringing him in and letting him be who he is. And shout out Pochettino for giving him the chance. Broken nose, and he stuffed some tissue in it, go back in the game, makes the impact into the game, gets the U.S. really on the roster for Pochettino, and now you see where he's at. Pat McAfee, potentially the player of the tournament conversations. I mean, this guy has an upstreak that it's not been seen in a long time for a U.S. men's national team player, and it's fantastic for me to watch. I enjoy it. I'm like Hector. I've been a fan for a while, and I hope to continue watching him excel because this has just been such a fun ride, and he's so down to earth with it. He's not the guy we normally see from U.S. soccer. And Hector, to your point, we need more of this. We need.
I think to piggyback off of what you're saying, everyone obviously when everyone was criticizing the U.S. men's national team as far as their urgency of wanting to be here, you go back to that Christian Pulisic interview where while he was saying the things you're supposed to say, it didn't sound like he really believed what he was saying about how we believe in this team. We want to be here. We want to compete. But when you hear Diego talk, you sense the passion. You sense that he wants to be here. He believes in those guys in the locker room. He believes in Poch because Poch believes in him. This is, I think that maybe that's another issue with this U.S. men's national team. How bought in are they with Pochettino right now? And does this group show the lesson to the rest of them? Like, hey, this system can work. You just got to buy in.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And this is, maybe it's because I watched the Hope Solo documentary recently. I have long since believed, and even when I coached youth soccer, I've long believed that U.S. Soccer Federation had flaws. And these are one of those flaws that you see come out every now and then, where a player just sneaks through their system without ever being found and is found randomly by somebody. Sometimes it's too late. Diego Luna is only 21. This is the best case scenario. He was found soon. He was found early enough. As you mentioned, Hector, he was on the U.S. roster for the Olympics. So yeah, we'll see what he can do. Now, guys, let's get to it. Right? We've talked about the teams. We talked about how we got here. We talked about Guatemala's fun run. But how's it end? Who lifts the trophy at the end of the night? Nick, let's start with you.
USA 2-1. I think even though it's going to probably be 90-10, 80-20 Mexico fans, maybe even 95-5. Hector, you know Houston, so you're probably a little bit more informed than me about the fan base down there. But yeah, I think USA gets it done. I think they kind of put it all together. I think they've never even though the odds say they're not an underdog, they feel like an underdog. Whereas like the Mexico, they feel like they need to win this one. Where it seems like USA, they're a little more. What do they say? Playing with house money for this one.
By the way, it is updated odds has the USA as the underdog plus 210.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mexico is also a plus 145 favorite, so that's not really a big favorite. That's it's like a half goal equivalent basically. So, Hector, what are your thoughts?
Look, at the end of the day, one actually brought their roster. One actually brought their coach. Well, one has more faith in their coach going into this tournament. Once again, yes, have the performances not been as much as everyone expected from this Mexican national team? No, but they got the job done. At the end of the day, the pressure is going to be on Mexico. Mexico brought in, and some people might argue with me, but they brought in their A team. This is going to probably be the same team. Maybe a few changes here or there. Maybe we'll see a little bit more from Mora this time, come 2026. But this is essentially the Mexican national team for 2026, and so they have a lot of pressure. USA, yes, you're right. They're rocking with house money. Would you say the talent is almost up there with the A team of Mexico? Some people would say yes. But I think at the end of the day, they're a team that could compete in CONCACAF. It is Houston, Texas. It is going to be very much a home game for Mexico. It is going to be very rowdy. It's going to be loud. It's going to be intense. And yes, it's going to be everything's going to be pointing Mexico in this match. I won't be rooting for Mexico because I don't want to see Mexico win. But I picked Mexico from the beginning, and I'm going to stick with my pick. I think Mexico is going to be lifting and extending their record in Gold Cup trophies.
Okay, all right. Yeah, they do lead all-time record-wise with trophies. No surprise to anybody. I do want to throw this out there. In the last 5 matches between the USA and Mexico, 2 friendlies, 2 CONCACAF Nations League, USA wins 2 of the 5, 2 draws, and 1 loss to Mexico. The loss, a 2-0 loss to Mexico in the international friendly in October last year. Hector, I do agree that, there's only one team that brought the roster, but I do want to throw this out there as a thought. It feels like Pochettino has found the sauce to bring back USA in CONCACAF play. And what I mean by that is this team feels like an old CONCACAF team. It feels like the grind you to the core. We're going to foul you if we foul you. That's all there is to it. But there's the sauce that makes it better, which is the Diego Lunas, the Malik Tillmans. They're playing really well. I wish I had more faith in my captain to actually play solid defense, and maybe that's just my bias. I just feel like I see him get beat a little too easy. I also wish I had 2 outside backs that could be successful for the U.S. men's national team, or at least solid, consistently. But so far, I've seen this team grow throughout the tournament, and I haven't seen Mexico necessarily grow throughout the tournament. I've seen them stay stagnant from game 1 till now. There hasn't been a lot of growth from this team, whereas the U.S. men's national team, I've seen a lot of growth. Maybe it's because one team sent their A team, so this is what you're going to get, whereas one team is putting it together, the coach is putting it together, they're trying to find how it all fits, and it feels like we're almost there for the U.S. men's national team. Is it enough? I don't know. But I'm going to go with it anyways because, America, why not? So I'm going to go U.S. men's national team myself. So we got 2 U.S. picks, 1 Mexico pick. I'm not surprised. Honestly, I thought 2 of us would have picked Mexico, instead of the U.S., so I appreciate you guys coming on and talking Gold Cup. We'll see how it actually turns out. Will Diego Luna score? And just a thought for you guys, I got to ask, will the stadium erupt positively if Diego Luna scores? Or given how many Mexico fans there are there, and he did shun the Mexican national team, even said in interviews he told his family during the USA-Mexico games in the past to shut up as they cheered for Mexico. Will he get booed by Mexican fans if he scores, or will he get cheered?
I think at the end of the day, there's going to be a sense of pride for Diego Luna. I think his story is just very heartwarming. It's very touching. At the end of the day, he is in some way La Raza. So I mean, I think because of the shirt he's wearing, he's probably going to get some boos. But I think at the same time, you're talking about a kid that a lot of these young, Mexican Americans are going to be able to relate to. I think seeing, it's one of those things that when you finally get to see one of your own be out there, it gives you this vision that this could happen to me. And I think that goes, especially for a lot of people that do come from Latin America and, came to the U.S. for that American dream. I know that that's a really touchy subject, and I'm not trying to get into that part. But I think at the end of the day, when you see guys able to succeed, and not only in just the game, but just in general in life, seeing success stories, and it's people from your very own backyard, it becomes very relatable. I think a prime example for me was when I saw Arturo Alvarez being captain of El Salvador, a guy that grew up in Houston, Texas, just like me, with Salvadorian roots, to be able to be representing El Salvador. I think, when you see someone that you can relate to, it means a lot. And I think if Diego Luna can perform and a lot of these young kids, hey, I don't have to play for El Tri to be a top player. I could choose the U.S. And I think that's also not only with him, but guys like Ricardo Pepi, more guys that do face that issue of, do I pick USA? Do I pick, Mexico? Do I pick Colombia? Do I pick, Argentina, so on and so forth. There's a phrase that gets told a lot in people that, I'll say it for me as well, because I am first generation. No somos de aquí ni de allá, which means I'm not from here, but I'm also not from there. And that is a true thing that we go through. And it's some sort of identity thing that I'm not going to try to go into deep with. But I'm very much American. I love my Salvadoran roots. And I always, as a matter of fact, I don't do much American things. As a matter of fact, 4th of July, we grilled some hamburgers, but we also grilled up some chorizo. So, I mean, like, we're just, that's just what, we're just not going to do things fully American, but I love it. And that's my upbringing, and that's never going to change. And I think that we can, those things can coincide. So I think that that's going to be really cool. I think a lot of kids that can see guys like Diego Luna showcasing for the U.S. men's national team will be very positive in the long run.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. Nick, any thoughts if he's going to get booed in the stadium, or you think it's going to be fun?
I think he'll get booed. I don't know if they'll do the boo him every time he touches the ball thing, though. I don't think they'll do that.
Yeah, it's been very interesting. Obviously, there's not been a lot of Mexican American players for the U.S. men's national team that have been this famously American with it, I guess you should say. He's very been, as we talked about, he's pro-American the whole way, as far as he's always wanted to play for the U.S. men's national team. Never a thought in his mind about playing for the Mexican national team, and I think that's very interesting about the whole dichotomy of a Mexican American player playing here. Beyond the rivalry, where we're talking about, man, how is he going to be received? Because we've never seen that. We've seen that from the USA's point of view, where a USA player in the youth rankings switches over to Mexico, and Mexico takes him. We've seen it with Carlos Alvarado for the U.S. men's national team a few years ago, but he never really long-term stayed with the U.S. Diego Luna here, it's very interesting to see what happens. So yeah, just something to think about as we get into it. Tomorrow, Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time is kickoff. 6:30 is, I guess, when coverage starts. I'll be tuned in. I know you guys will be as well. USA Mexico. No fun with flags as we get to the end of this one. Sorry, guys, to ruin that one for you. But no, this will be very fun, guys. As always, I appreciate it. Hector, go ahead and tell the people, where do they find you at?
Everything's, you see Kelsey's face. Everything social media is at Insert Name FC. It's pretty straightforward. Right now, we are still taking our break, so best thing you do is check out Belly Up Sports. There will be a recap episode for the final for the Gold Cup. So if you want to see that one, it's going to feature Musa from Mo Football. He's going to be on there talking to me about this Gold Cup final, which is funny because he's French. So no CONCACAF connection there, but it would be an interesting conversation nonetheless. But yeah, check us out there. And I do want to take this time right now to send our thoughts and prayers to the family of Diogo Jota and Andre. Obviously, tragic car accident that happened in Spain, and it was tragic by all means. And of course, also prayers to Jamal Musiala, who had a very unfortunate injury in today's match against PSG.
Yeah, you're exactly right. We'll talk about Diego Jota in just a moment. Nick, real quick, how can everybody find you?
At Nick Gable 37 on Twitter, and then just go to Belly Up Sports. I'm writing pretty consistently, maybe one article, maybe two articles a week. I recently wrote about Ace Bailey, the NBA draft prospect who just got drafted by the Jazz. So yeah, that should be up soon.
All right. Well, guys, look, if you guys haven't heard, as Hector mentioned, Diego Jota and his brother Andre did pass away, sadly, in a car accident. That was on Friday. And absolutely tragic, or sorry, Thursday. That was an absolutely tragic moment. We well wishes to his family, to his new wife, and to everybody within the Jota family, because that is absolutely tragic moment. And you wish the best for anybody left from that tragic incident. So, guys, we'll leave it at that. And until next time, we'll see you later.